Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? OTAs going on down in New Orleans. Matthew Paris, Times Pick, good enough to join us here, talk a little Saints. How are you, man?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure. First day out there at OTAs on Tuesday. My assumption is everybody was looking at Trevor Penning at right tackle and Talia Seifuanga at left tackle. Was that the single biggest storyline of day one, or did it reside somewhere else?
No, I think so. I mean, there was a lot that happened, or maybe not a lot that happened with Marshon Lattimore, but some newsy comments about Marshon Lattimore. But besides that, as it relates to on the field, the offensive line kind of dominated, the talk of what we were talking about out there and just what we were looking at. They had not only Penning at right tackle and Fuanga at left tackle, but, they had Shane Lemieux at left guard, sprinkled in with some Nick Saldiveri. They kind of kept the backup lines the same. I think they're trying to find their best five right now, and how that develops over the next few weeks here will be interesting to see.
Of the notable absences on Tuesday, who was maybe most significant?
Even though there was a lot of focus on Lattimore, I think Alvin Kamara, just in terms of how the Saints are trying to improve their run game, trying to get everyone on the same page, maybe you would like him to be there. Jamal Williams wasn't there either, strangely enough. Now, these are veteran guys at their stages of the career. Maybe they feel like they don't have to be there, and that's their right, given that, this is voluntary. But you would like everyone to kind of be there early on, so as you're installing a new offense, you can get everyone on the same page.
I know it's early, and you're not going to be able, we're not going to learn a ton about what the offense is going to look like in OTAs, but since you went to Kamara in the running game, I mean, that was the spot in the offense where they were division. I mean, they ranked in the 20s in the NFL in rushing offense a year ago. What has Clint Kubiak or the coaching staff or the players talked about how they plan to improve the running game this year?
Yeah, they're really emphasizing kind of speed. Now, you hear that every kind of OTAs, and players and coaches want to play fast. But I do think there is something to that. We talked to John Benton, their offensive coordinator, or their offensive line coach, rather, and he emphasized kind of this illusion of, let me pull up the quote here, sorry. Illusion of complexity. And basically what they want to do is they want to make it seem complex when it isn't, and present these teams with different looks and try and make it as simple for players as possible while still keeping the defenses guessing. And, you kind of did see that with how practice was unfolding, that there was a lot of motion stuff, a lot of similar formations, but presenting different looks each time. They really rely on a fullback. We can talk about that if you want, in terms of just, I do think a fullback is going to be an important part of this offense, even with Taysom Hill getting some looks there. So, I do think they want to try and be creative, but they definitely want to overhaul how this run game is presented.
Well, Kyle Juszczyk was a massive part of the offense in San Francisco, so it would stand to reason that you'd have someone in that role. Is it Taysom Hill? Is that guy on the team right now?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. Dennis Allen actually kind of embraced that comparison. Taysom Hill did line up at fullback a few times. Now, I think it's different with the way that San Francisco uses Juszczyk as a blocker. I don't think Taysom Hill is ever going to fill that role exactly, but I do think you can use some creative stuff with Hill out of a fullback formation. You can motion him out wide. We saw that yesterday. I think he's been a versatile weapon for them for years, and I think Clint Kubiak can bring a slightly new approach to this as well.
Matthew Paris is our guest on Twitter at Matthew_Paris, Paras, if you want to give him a follow. So you've mentioned Lattimore a handful of times. I haven't asked about him yet, so I'll go ahead and ask about him. Dennis Allen said point blank that Lattimore is going to be on the team this year. Do we believe him?
Yeah, I think so, and I think part of that has to do with how the cornerback market is outside, the Saints and around the NFL. High-quality corners aren't fetching a lot in return on the trade market. L'Jarius Sneed only fetched a third-rounder. Now, part of that was because they had to pay him as well, the Titans did. But I don't think they would get much more than that for Lattimore, and it's hard to see a team at this point willing to actually pay the price. Rosters are mostly settled. Maybe if there's an injury, a team would come in and make an offer, or they feel they're a cornerback away. But it's just, looking around right now, it's kind of hard to see who that team would be. And, it was reaching a point here where, mandatory minicamp is next month. Allen felt like he needed to have a conversation with Lattimore to address this trade speculation, and apparently that they reached a comparable solution, and everyone is on the same page, and they expect him to be back. Now, we'll have to see how the year unfolds, but I just don't think the market necessarily developed for Lattimore the way that you would expect for a player of his caliber.
Of the players that were there, among rookies or free agents, did any of the new additions catch your eye for any reason, good or bad?
Spencer Rattler, you could tell he was a rookie. He's a fifth-round pick, but they had to kind of reset the huddle a few times. He was a little shaky in terms of he had an interception, another near interception. I believe he was the quarterback when James Robinson fumbled the ball. He was just it was just kind of striking how sharp Jake Haener looked running with the second team, and Spencer Rattler, I think understandably, was still kind of looking through those rookie woes.
I'm glad you brought up Haener, because the way I was going to phrase the question, Matthew, is are we overlooking Jake Haener with all of the attention on Spencer Rattler? So are we overlooking Jake Haener because of all the attention on Spencer Rattler?
Well, I would have said yes going into the day, but after Tuesday's practice, I think he showed that he's still to be reckoned with, that he's going to compete for this backup job, that he was pretty sharp. That he processes things really well. I think his best throw of the day was on a play action pass to, I can't remember the tight end that they threw, but the first, second, and third team, they all run the same plays, and I think Haener's throw in that sequence was the sharpest of the three quarterbacks that all attempted that pass. So it was pretty impressive. He seemed like he had a control over this offense, and I think that second, the backup quarterback race is going to be pretty interesting to watch in training camp.
Of course, throughout OTAs, mini camp, training camp, preseason, the season, you can follow along. He's on Twitter at Matthew_Paras, Paras. You read stuff there at NOLA.com. We appreciate it, man. Thanks so much.
Hey, I appreciate it. Anytime.
I did find it interesting, talking about Jake Haener, how much there was positive to say about Haener coming out of the first day of OTAs, because it kind of felt like as they made their way through that day, that Haener was the guy, as you heard Matthew say, the guy who actually garnered the most positive attention. I found it interesting as well with the Taysom Hill fullback spot, because we talked about Hill several weeks ago and made the comparison to Kyle Juszczyk. Now, Taysom Hill isn't physically the same player that Kyle Juszczyk is, but athletically is more gifted. So could you see situations where Taysom Hill is lined up as a fullback, as an F-back, an H-back, whatever it may be, and run plays to get him the ball out of different positions when you have a traditional tight end on the field as well? Maybe so. And then you're not as predictable by personnel, because when Taysom Hill's out there as an attached tight end, right, hand in the dirt, traditional tight end line, he's not blocking. That's not his role. So in a way, you're predictable by personnel. If you move Taysom Hill into the fullback role, then you're not quite as predictable when he's on the field, which certainly makes him even more dangerous. So we'll certainly talk much more about that as OTAs and minicamp move along. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.